today for show and tell. My little card from Vacation Bible School where I learned my Bible verses, my heart, and then you got a little sticker. And my dad was a test pilot at Cape Canaveral for a period, and so we were in Florida just for 3 brief years, but all my girlfriends were Southern Baptists, and so I wanted to be a Southern Baptist too. And I'm grateful for those 3 years, even though I've traveled very far from that, because it was foundational. And I had to do things, didn't have to, but did. Learn the books of the Bible forwards to be able to recite, then be able to recite them backwards, and do spelling bees, or people in the Bible bees. And it was greatly foundational for me. And so I see that as, well, just what I said, a wonderful foundation. And we came back to California, and we're, again, a liberal Presbyterian church. I've always kind of been connected to Presbyterianism because it's reformed and reforming, as you have pointed out. And then, you know, Robert and I got married right out of college, and we went to church, kind of, and he didn't really want to, and I really wanted to. And I'm going to back up for just a minute and say in 3rd grade in California, I don't know what the curriculum is now, but social studies, you studied Indians, North American Indians. And when the teacher said, who wants to head up the committee to do the report on religion, I raised my hand. I was always interested in something different in terms of religion. So I wrote a report in 3rd grade on Native American spirituality. I'll come back to that. So when we came up here, my mother had stayed at the Casa Madrone and came to church here, and she really wanted us to come to church. You know how mothers are. They want their kids to go to church if they're church. And she found David Jacobson in this church, and she said, you have to come, you're going to love it. And we came and we loved it. We just loved it. And so a couple of years later, George came, and I was thinking this morning as I was sitting here, that your being here, George, really opened the door for me to do a deeper exploration of my own spiritual practice, spiritual belief system, because you kept talking about that Presbyterianism was reformed and reforming, and always, in other words, in my mind, open to new ideas. And so I, as a result of you and other people present here today, began just having opportunities show up for me, and I'm an adventurous and curious person, so I would grab those possibilities. Susan Smith, who's now an Episcopal priest, and you taught dream work, and I began following my dreams and following the advice of some of my dreams. I found myself in Arizona. Some of the deepest spiritual experiences of my life have been in the Sweat Lodge, Native American Sweat Lodge led by Navajo medicine man and roadman Albert Sombrero, who has sat in the choir loft of this church at one time. And amongst the drumming and the rattling and the deep, deep sharing of prayers and pain at the same time, it's just amazing to me, just amazing. I brought one of Albert's prayer fans this morning and put it up here in his honor. And that led me to a Yaqui medicine man, Lynch Archuleta. I spent weeks in the Arizona desert with Lynch, doing all kinds of ceremony and spiritual practice that was completely new and foreign to me, but so comforting and genuine, and it added to my own understanding. From there I was led to do a 2-year shamanic training with a woman who had been apprenticed to a Peruvian Q'ero medicine man. I brought my mesa that is my portable altar from my days doing that kind of shamanic work. And again, deeply inspirational to me and expansive. And I think expansive is the word I would like to share today. When I was chairman here of the worship committee, oh, I'm sorry, I'm touching my microphone, sorry. It was my job to find people to take your place when you were out of town or, on study leave. And I would get the Christian Science practitioner and Father Shanahan from Star of the Sea and the rabbi from Roto Shalom, because I love the idea of ecumenism. I think it's so rich, I think it's rich. And more recently, my friend Susan Smith, who I mentioned earlier, who's your friend as well, who I met right here in the Sausalito Church, has taken me to India, and I brought some of the things here today that I collected from the various ashrams, the Hindu ashrams there. And from the Buddhist cousins in Shoghill, who you all may remember here, who's offered blessings and will probably be back. And he helped me bring the Oracle of Tibet, who again sat right where I'm sitting on this stage and offered meditation and teaching. So I would say my path has been, by choice, an eclectic one. And I think you could make a good argument for saying, well, it also is useful to have one specific path, and which you study deeply. So I don't think there's a right way to do it. I think for me, the exploration has been really important and deepening, and has raised lots of questions, probably more questions than answers, which I think is a good thing, to be able to hold the questions.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So what about you, George?
My parents were both Pentecostal preachers and fundamentalists, and fundamentalism says, I'm right and you're wrong. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. You aren't just going a different way, you're absolutely wrong. And of course, we were the ones going to heaven and everybody else is going to hell. My father died when I was 5, and I didn't read the Bible until I was in high school. And when I started reading the Bible, I started asking questions. And my mother said, you shouldn't ask any questions. You should just do what we say. It's all been worked out. So all you have to do is follow the path. Don't ask questions. And but if you have questions inside you, you can't just shut up and say, I don't have any questions anymore. And then I started dating a Presbyterian girl, and my mother said, watch out for those Presbyterians. However, the first Presbyterian sermon I ever heard, I still remember. And I think I was 18 or 19 at the time, so that's how impressed it was. Then, skipping forward, I counseled with people who were back from Vietnam, and they told me what they were asked to do, and I said, no, that can't possibly be right. And then a man from the Air Force was coming to our couples group, and the day that he was to come, either, I don't know, it was Nixon or the other guy, announced that we'd been bombing Cambodia, I think, for 3 years or something like that. Well, this was the Air Force guy, and he swore to God in that whole talk that we had never ever bombed. He gave all the reasons why we didn't and how far inland they dropped the bombs. And I was only out of seminary a month, and I didn't have the courage to stand up and say, by the way, Henry Kissinger just said they've been doing it for 3 years. Which today I would have said, but not in those days. So I left that, and I was driving down the hill to my house, and I said, no matter what it costs me, I'm going to find out the truth about all of this. Well, it cost me my marriage, and later on, I almost decided to get out of the ministry. Actually, I did decide to get out of the ministry because I didn't want to spend my life teaching things that I didn't know if they were true. So then I got involved in meditation, had a mystical experience, which is too elaborate to talk about today. And I ended up going to 3.5 years of lessons from the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is Paramahansa Yogananda, and that's where I learned meditation. And the meditation has, if I were to have to give up all that I do in my spiritual path, except one thing, I would hold on to meditation. And I went to a workshop down in the desert with Brew Joy. At first I didn't even know that was his real name. Dr. Brew Joy was his name. He passed away now. And Carolyn Conger. And Brew says to us, go out into the desert and find your teacher. And I said to myself, here I am. I have no way of getting out of here. And I'm stuck here for 2 weeks. And this is a nut house that I said. And I go out and I wander around, I don't find anything. And people come in, and some people found a rock, and that was their teacher, and some people found this. I found nothing. And so the next day I went out, and there was a little yucca plant about this high. I said, that's my teacher. So, for 2 weeks, weeks, I sat with that every day. And an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. And I learned from that thing as if it were, I had a PhD. So Bruce told us that he had spent a week with a triangle. You know the triangle in a band, in an orchestra? And I thought to myself, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's even dumber than having a teacher that you find in the desert. However, and this is what I want to say today, is that has been very, very, very valuable because it humbles us. Now, in preparation for today, I did a meditation with a kitchen knife. Now, I know you don't walk out right yet.
Especially the visitors.
Yeah. All right. And I'm not telling you that the knife spoke to me. I am telling you that when I quieted down, when I focused, and when I paid attention to that knife, this is what came into my mind. And I wrote them all down. Stay sharp. Now, that's a pretty good idea. Stay sharp. Stay clean. You know, we don't want to use a dirty knife to cut your lunch with. Stay handy. That is, don't hide in a drawer or a closet. And don't cut yourself. There's a really good one. Don't use the kitchen knife for violence. Be mindful when using the kitchen knife. Don't be in a hurry when you're using a kitchen knife. Don't let children play with kitchen knives. Keep it dry so it won't rust. And now, in October, I got the date, October 23rd, 1944, my mother and I were in the kitchen when I was 5 years old, and she had a knife in her hand preparing dinner, and a knock came at the door, and it was two policemen, and they said that my dad had died. And so I hadn't thought about that for many years until I was with the kitchen knife in this last week, preparing for this talk. So then I went to the website of the maker of the kitchen knife, and there are 50 little videos on how to use the knife correctly, no matter what it is you're doing. So now I did several others, but I don't have time to talk about them. But I'm telling you, if we will humble ourselves, and for instance, we could use those flowers as our teacher. And if I were going to do that, I would get a magnifying glass, you know, so I could look really carefully. I bet you, after spending a half hour with that bouquet, there'd be 15 or 20 things on the list. And I recommend that to you as a way of enriching your life, enriching your experience of spirituality, of getting closer to the divine. And that's all I'll say for now. Now, you want to say anything?
Yeah, there are a few more things I want to say, George.
Great.
I want to say that 6 of my closest friends are here today, and that every one of them I met here in this church. I want to say, George, thank you for creating the atmosphere in this church that allows, and not just allows, but promotes exploration. David did that before you, and you came in to promote that. And I want to say thank you to Peg and to Judy, who are my children's Sunday school teachers, and to you for baptizing my children and marrying one of my sons. Maybe you'll marry the other one sometime soon. I'm hoping for that.
Me too.
So I think what's so important is to provide the opportunity for exploration, and then whatever that spiritual development that occurs as a result of that is our own. You know, my mom used to say, because I would quiz her. She was pretty devout churchgoer. I'd say, "Mom, do you really believe in Adam and Eve?" No, she would never answer. She would never answer. And she would say, "You know, Sonnee, by the time you get to be my age, most people have their own ideas about what's what around religion and the divine." So I think that's a really good answer, that if we're exploring and we're adventuring in our own spiritual life, all kinds of things can happen, and I think no two are alike.
Thank you. If some of my older friends that are still fundamentalists, Pentecostals, they would look at me today and say that I backslid.
That you're what?
I backslid,
Oh, you backslid?
yeah.
Oh.
But I say to them, I slid all right, but it was forward and upwards. And it has been a magnificent experience to be on a spiritual path that all you know is the next step. And, you know, where's it going to go? Who knows? Now, anybody wish to say anything? This is an opportunity to do so.
Oh, there's somebody that wants to say something or ask a question.
Okay, Georgette.